Hello and welcome back to Football Index Moneyball with the next instalment in the Pick of the Day series. For today's pick, we've got another older player who looks to be great value after returning to one of his past clubs on loan. We'll take a look at how his career goals and assists gives us a decent base to work from, and how he could improve on it this season after being pushed further forward to play as an attacking mid, where he spent most of his career in centre mid and defensive mid. How he's currently down 10p below his peak, despite his excellent form this season, and how he's come close to clinching the PB on a couple of occasions so far this season, and what a win would do for his price in terms of immediate return and price appreciation. Then to finish off, we have the usual price analysis and some of the highest profits that we've seen so far on the series. Before we get going, the usual reminder, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. If you want to be notified when new videos come out, you can hit the bell icon, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, then you can just search for @IndexMoneyball. So the player I've gone for today is Radja Nainggolan. For those who don't know, Nainggolan is a 31-year-old Belgian central midfielder. He's on loan at Cagliari from Inter Milan, having spent 4 years with Cagliari from 2010 to 2014, before getting his move to Roma, then moving to Inter in the summer of 2018 for 40 million. In the last 2 games, he's been the captain of Cagliari, so I think that shows that he's very comfortable being back there, which is a good sign for us. This is actually the third player I'm recommending from Cagliari on the Pick of the Day series, and I think this is something I've not mentioned before, but I do tend to pick teams who I think have got good transfer windows and load up on their players, as good players usually have a better chance of scoring well when they have a good team around them. For instance, RB Leipzig is one that I loaded up on last year and this summer, and Real Sociedad was another that I identified after they signed Odegaard, Alex Isaac and Porto. Both of these have worked out really well for me so far, and I think Cagliari are flying a bit under the radar. I think they signed a lot of good players and they're just starting to hit the stride. They're on a 10-game unbeaten run, which includes wins away at Napoli and Atalanta, which is really impressive for a team of their size. And personally, I think a lot of the good form is down to the signings they made in summer, with past Pick of the Days Giovanni Simeone, Luca Pellegrini and now Radja Nainggolan all playing a big part. If we take a look here at Nainggolan's 12-month price graph, we can see that he was up at 50p this time last year before dropping down as low as 22p in the summer briefly, then gradually rising back up to 41p where he sits now. In the 2-0 win over Atalanta at the weekend, he briefly jumped to 51p before dropping back, but I think this is a good sign for the potential reaction you could see after a few good performances. One thing to note is that Nainggolan has retired from the Belgian national team in 2017 after not being picked for some World Cup qualifiers. This, along with the lack of European football, could be a contributing factor to why his price has remained so low, but I still think he offers a huge amount of potential at this price. And if I had to try and pick the cheapest player on the index who I think would win the gold day this season, Nainggolan would be who I'd put my money on. So now we've come over to Nainggolan's transfer marked, and there's a couple of things that I wanted to show you here. First of all, if we look at his career statistics, we can see that he's played a lot of football at the highest level with 470 appearances, 54 goals and 43 assists. This works out to a combined average of 0.23 per 90, or just under 1 in 4. But something that I wanted to point out to you when we look at this is he's played a lot of those games, almost all of them, apart from 97, in either centre mid, defensive mid, and then a little bit right wing and left wing. But now if we jump over to this season, we can see that after starting with 2 appearances in defensive mid, when he's come back from injury, he's played most of his games at attacking mid. So 5 out of the 6 games he's played in attacking mid so far this season. This could be a real boom for us if he can improve on his career return. And after watching a lot of Cagliari this season when I've been tracking Simeone and Pellegrini, I'm pretty confident that he will. He's really pulling the strings for them, and what I've seen so far, I think he's going to thrive from being the main man after spending 5 years surrounded by some world-class players at Roma and Inter. The last thing I wanted to mention here is that it says he's got 1 goal and 1 assist, and just 1 goal in the league, but he actually got an assist against Bologna. I don't know why it's not come up on here, but it did get paid out on Football Index, so he's actually running at about 1 in 3, so he's already ahead of his career average. So now we've jumped over to FootMob, as I wanted to take a look at some stats for Nainggolan this season. So we can see here that he is showing the 1 goal and 1 assist in the league that I mentioned, and this puts him at 0.3 per 90 combined. But the 3 stats that I really want to highlight are his key passes, where he has 11 so far at a rate of 1.7 per 90, his shots, where he has 13 at a rate of 2 per 90, and his attempted dribbles, which he has 11 at a rate of 1.7 again per 90. Now, as a rule, when I see a player with above 1 in all of these areas, it highlights that this player has a PB winning potential. Usually this comes from fairly attack-minded players, but as I mentioned, Nainggolan has played a lot of his career in CM and DM, So his defensive stats are actually pretty impressive as well, which adds to his PB chances even further. Another good stat for us is his passes. At 282 passes so far, he's running at 43 passes per game. So now I've jumped to the 2018-19 season numbers from his time at Inter, and there's even more good news for us here. Even though he only started 22 games and he was subbed off in half of them, his 6 goals and 3 assists gave him a combined 0.4 per 90, which is a pretty solid effort for any CM. And again, his key passes, shots and dribbles are all high at 1.9, 2.2 and 1.8 per 90 respectively. Now admittedly last season he was playing in a much better team at Inter, but it's still a good indication of his talent and his PB potential. And he already has a PB peak score of 239 on the old matrix, and he won 6p dividends, but that was in the 2017-18 season. So the last thing I'm going to look at, I just come over to Football Index Edge to look at the master stats table. So here I've got a list of 31 and 32 year old attacking mids and centre mids on Football Index. And you can see here at the bottom is Nainggolan and his price of 41p, and up at the top we have Mesut Ozil and Ever Banega. I'm going to use some of these players in my comparison in a minute, but I just wanted to highlight a few things. So if we look at the average matchday scores, and all of these have got a really good sample size, he has an average of 84, which is only beaten by Busquets, Rakitic and Ever Banega. And when we look at the peak, he has 239, which is only beaten by Milner, Banega, and yeah, that's it. He's on par with Rakitic and Mesut Ozil just about. But when we change this to just be this season, so this is the game since he's moved to Cagliari and since the new matrix has been implemented, we can see he's got an average of 103 so far this season, and there's only Ever Banega with 138 with a higher score. And then we look at Max, he's got 182 so far this season, where he came close. He actually hit the post. If he'd have scored another goal, I think he probably would have won the dividend that day. And, you know, that's up there with the best scores of most of these players. He's not far off Vidal's, and Milner got 218. But I just think that when you look at the prices, he just seems to be very, very underpriced in comparison to what he's offering. So now for the profit target analysis today. As you can see from the previous details on Football Index Edge, I actually had a surprising amount of options for the 31 to 32 year old CM AMs. So for my comparable players today, I went for Juan Mata and Arturo Vidal. Both of these players have better goal and assist records than Nainggolan. Mata has a far superior average per 90, but he's not registered any goals or assists this season, and he's only played 70 plus minutes on 2 occasions. To win PB, you really need to be playing at least 70 minutes, preferably the full 90, but this is a baseline I sometimes use. Then for Vidal, he actually has won dividends already this season on a single game day with a score of 198, but he also has only played 70 plus minutes on 3 occasions, so this can really limit his chances of winning PB. Nainggolan, on the other hand, has played an average of 74 minutes over his 8 appearances in the league so far, with his return from injury being the only occasion he played less than 70 minutes, where he came on as a sub for 22 minutes. So for that reason, I think that despite the other 2 players being better goal contributors on paper and having a bonus of potential European matches, Nainggolan's the better option due to the importance to the team, and as I said earlier, he's been the captain in the last 2 games, which is a great sign for his potential game time in the future, and he's also cheaper, which is always a bonus. For my low end target, I went for Sergio Busquets. Now this is a really interesting one for me, because Busquets on paper is a much worse option than Nainggolan. He's got a combined goal and assist record of 0.1 per 90, and he has a peak score of 185. He plays a lot of games for Barca and makes a lot of passes, which has been good for the index, but overall I would say his chances of winning PB are nowhere near as good as Nainggolan's. So this is the kind of price I'm hoping to see Nainggolan hit in the next few months if his form can continue. Then for my mid price, I went for James Milner at Liverpool. Again, Liverpool are in Europe, so they have more games, but Milner's only played 70 plus minutes twice. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist so far this season, but for me, I think the lack of game time is a real drawback, and I have to admit that I still don't really see the justification for this price being so different from Nainggolan's, even when you consider that Milner has a better goal and assist record of 0.38 per 90, as I think Nainggolan could get close to that figure this season anyway. Then for my top end, I went for Ever Banega at Sevilla. As you can see, there's a huge price difference here, and I think that some of that can be accounted for the fact that Banega's contract is up next summer, so there could potentially be some media attention if he's linked with a team in England. But with Nainggolan being out on loan this year, there could also be a chance with him being linked with England if he has a good season. Banega actually got worse goals and assists per 90 than Milner at 0.29, but he has a really strong PB record, returning 31p since the start of the 17-18 season. But if Nainggolan was to pick up PB on a couple of game days, then I think this could be a potential marker of what you could expect to see in the best case scenario. And if he was to manage star man on a gold day, then this would definitely be what I'd be looking at as a very, very top end estimate. So that brings me to my expected dividend returns. I'm going to play it safe and exclude any expected dividends, although depending on when you watch this video and if you decide to buy Nainggolan, then I think a couple of IPDs could definitely be a possibility. And as I've mentioned, I have high hopes for a PB win at some point this season, but I always like to be conservative with my profit targets and let the dividends be a bonus. So that leaves us with a profit target range of 51% for the low, 100% for the mid, and 229% for the high. For this pick, I'm looking at somewhere between the mid and high targets. Whenever I see 100% at the mid target, it gives me a lot of confidence in the pick. And having that top end marker over 200% is just the cherry on top for this one. You also may have noticed on the Football Index edge table I showed earlier that Ozil was also at £1.35, so it's even better to have two players of the same age up at that price point. Then to top it all off, if we consider the possibility of a PB win and what those returns could be as a percentage of his current price, I think we're left with a very solid, low risk, high reward pick. That's all we've got for you on today's pick. Again, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment and subscribe. Also, if you know someone else who might like the video, then sharing with them would really help me out. There are links in the description for signing up to Football Index and Football Index Edge if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel for more strategy videos and the other picks of the day. Most picks are long-term holds with depressed prices for some reason or other, so often the picks can still offer the same value, if not better, a few weeks after. And the research methods and reasoning can help if you're new to the index and want to learn to analyse your own players. Thanks for watching. Good luck on the index.